it doesn't follow its logic on down the road either. If everything is defined by physics and chemistry from top to bottom, it turns into such a reductionist worldview. Humans are no longer a wonder of creation, fearfully and wonderfully made. They're now just, biological robots.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. That means you can cure them by treating them like biological. There's no human on the planet, including atheists, that want to be treated like a biological robot.
That, and then on top of that, in order to hold true to that belief, then there is absolutely no such thing as free will by its most logical conclusion at that point.
Yeah, but you've got people like Sam Harris, and I forget what guy's name. He used to go by Cosmic Skeptic, but now he's decided that I guess he's got enough ration of crap over that self-imposed title that he's just using his regular name. But logically, that's what they argue, is there is no free will. And they try and draw a logical, airtight argument against it, and it fails all the time because they have to assume certain things in that line of reasoning to get their conclusion.
Questions, comments, compliments, criticisms, suggestions. Shoot us an email to tincanradio@protonmail.com.
Every person except Jesus is born with a blinding bias to their own hypocrisy. In lacking the proper skills of discernment, we burrow our way into many forms of bondage. Battle for Freedom focuses on triggering change so that we can climb out of our systems of death. Check it out Mondays through Fridays at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Mojo Fiber Radio. Battle for Freedom. Triggering change, one heartbeat at a time.
Politics and the two controlling political parties are destroying America. Both parties have spent your tax dollars with reckless abandon. Both parties are more beholden to party leadership than we, the people that they represent. Both parties value power above all else. Neither party respects the limits of the U.S. Constitution. The U.S. Constitution made this country great, and it's the U.S. Constitution that is the answer to our political woes. Forget the two ruling political parties and register as a constitutionalist. Support the U.S. Constitution, the just and moral society it creates, and not the two-party system. Join the only national political party that stands for the founding principles of the U.S. Constitution. Learn more, join and support the Constitution Party at constitutionparty.com or your state's Constitution Party website.
I've got the name of the author that I was looking for. It was James Hutton. He was James Hutton.
Okay.
He wrote Theory of the Earth. Darwin absolutely loved this guy. I mean, Darwin was a Bible scholar. I mean, he was going to be a preacher, but he didn't like that avenue.
Yep.
So when he got on the Beagle, he brought the books from James Hutton, and that's where he started. So I thought that was right, but my wife looked it up for me while we were talking, and it was James Hutton. He's the author I was looking for, The Theory of the Earth, and that's what really influenced Charles Darwin, excuse me.
When you said James, I got blocked by Lipton, who's from the Actors Studio, so I was like, James Lipton, like, go figure. I was like, I know what you're talking about, but yeah, when you said Hutton, I knew that's spot on there. Yeah, he became basically a student of Hutton.
That's exactly right.
And and all of his theories came out of that. Were seeded with those things. And ultimately, that is kind of the case. As a Christian, as a person who follows Christ, we do stand on, the shoulders of giants, so to speak, like you just brought up Augustine. And
Right.
Of course, you can go through the history of Christianity and we stand on that. But there's a time in our life that we must seek God on our own outside of these teachers. Throw the teachers out and have that one-on-one relationship with the living God. We all have to come to that point. We strive for that. And God really becomes real at that point. At least for me, he always has been. But what a game changer it is. And it was probably also a game changer in the life of Darwin too, to have something like that happen. Just on the negative side of it.
Well, you can't get saved until what he's talking about.
Right,
None of us were saved until then. You
can go a long way on intellectual weight towards God, but there's a point when, as he said, that you're standing on the shoulders of giants. You have to step off into the palm of God's hand.
You got to put that knee down. I know.
Right. You gotta trust on him all of a sudden. You've got all these giants who got you so far, but all they really have gotten you is a place that you can kneel on the palm of his hand and say, okay, there's a lot to be said. I mean, it's just that exchange that goes from you, Christ, now to your Father, okay? And the more and more you realize that God's looking at you like a beloved child. And life is serious business. He's not your genie. He's not here to save you, especially from, the graves that you've dug yourself. He may pluck you up and put you back on stable ground, but that's as far as he's going to go this side of, eternity. He forgave David's sin. Okay, you know what? Yeah, you broke all of my commandments, every single last one of them, but I'm not going to demand your death. But you are going to be afflicted by the consequences of that sin for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. You're going to see it in your children. You're going to see it in your, and it actually continued after him. I mean, Solomon was pretty much a rock steady king, except for his excess with women, which drove him away from the Lord. But it was his son after him who was arrogant. And because he didn't listen to Solomon's wise advisors, he listens to his own, punks who are surrounding him. He broke the kingdom in two.
Something about that third generation, it doesn't always hold up very good.
You know what? Pretty sobering thought, Kenzie, to think that we're somebody's third generation.
Yeah.
Well, talking about design, did you guys, I talked to Kenzie about this the other night, but Patrick, did you know that about every third day, your stomach replaces its own lining?
Yep.
I mean, how did evolution know that the stomach acids would finally devour itself and it needed to replace them? Did we die for millions of years waiting to get this?
It gets worse than that. I mean, every day there are literally breaks and damages done to your DNA, right?
Oh, absolutely.
The very thing that's required for your cells to make copies and function. And you're talking trillions of damages happen daily. But your DNA is equipped with a system to recognize the damage and repair it.
Yep.
And that system that recognizes and repairs the DNA requires a ton of information. So you can't posit and say, well, the DNA happened and that happened later, because DNA wouldn't even live through a couple of days before being degraded by the environment, just wear and tear damage, ultraviolet light, et cetera, et cetera. So that's destroyed unless it has a repair mechanism. And the repair mechanism can't exist unless you have enough information to manufacture it in the first place. And it has no reason to actually be in existence unless there's DNA for it to repair.
And also, to throw another step of complication into this whole thing, all of this stuff is done while everything is still in motion and operating. I mean, how many mechanics can work on a car while it is driving down the road?
Yep.
Yeah, you can count me out.
Yeah. There has been stories written about people that had attempted some of these things. They're called Darwin Award winners.
Funny how that works.
Yeah.
Well, it's it doesn't take a whole lot of effort to poke holes in the arguments of the atheist or in any way, shape, or form. I have yet to see them do the opposite, poke holes in the existence of God. It's pretty airtight, and I love that God makes it very simple, and it says it right in His Word. The heavens themselves declare the glory of God.
Well, a lot of them think that they do a decent argument, but they really don't, because what they do is they think that if they list another possibility or another scenario, then that is just as well as what yours is.
Right.
And Greg Kokel was talking one time about a caller that came in with an objection or an argument back and said that, well, you could say that possibly such and such could have happened at whatever point toward the beginning of everything, right? Whatever he said. And Greg Kokel says, you're right. You could say. You can say anything that you want. But the problem is you have to show it as something that is reasonable to believe.
Right.
Otherwise, you're not really making any progress against anyone with an argument.
Right.
Listing another possibility without showing how it's likely to be, it doesn't make any traction.
Yeah. I think part of the problem is that a lot of atheists exist in their echo chamber. And because they have such a vitriol and visceral reaction towards people of faith, it's impossible for them to take any of the arguments seriously. So in their mind, they've already dismissed those. They said, they shelve them as stupid, et cetera, et cetera. They talk about them in their echo chamber till they get online or whatever, and they throw them out there, and then people just pile on and laugh.
Yeah. At the bottom of it is pride, I believe. They're proud, and I mean being able to. I think it was mentioned just a little bit earlier, the ability even to explain will.
Right.
It's very difficult to do that.
Almost, it's impossible. I mean, as far as the atheists think they can, but it's because they hold a prior belief that says, you know what. The human has to be just a chemically driven machine. Therefore, we just have to find the right chemicals to get the machine to do whatever we want.
In order to believe, in order to follow to its fullest extent an atheist mindset and belief, you can't trust anything that anybody says.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, John Lennox used to use this as a constant example. He would ask people that were atheists how they do science, and they'll talk about doing a lab experience, and he's like, no, you as a person, how do you, without any of the tools or anything, how do you do science? And then they start by get ready to say that they use their mind, and they cut short there. Yep. And realizing what they're about to step into, they back out and they say that they use their brain. And he said, okay, well, tell me how this brain came to be. Aha. Well, it was years and years of random processes coming together that finally, and chance and everything, that finally made this brain. And he says, and you trust it?
Yeah.
would you trust a computer that was put together by nothing but time and random chance events and processes?
Yeah. That's like one of the computer engineers who have said for ages, it kind of blows Darwin's idea out of the water. Why? Because if evolution on random mutations actually worked, Bill Gates could conceivably fire every single programmer he has just by millions of computers and set them up to run Windows programs and eventually one of them will spit out a better winner.